Trouble for some Californians who received unemployment benefits during the pandemic. Now the state is claiming overpayment, even garnishing wages to get the money back. But that's not all. Our investigative reporter Brooks DeRose has been digging into this. So Brooks, tell us what you found.
Well, Heather, after getting approved to receive unemployment money years ago, they're accusing some claimants of fraud. And we learned some related paperwork with personal identifying information was sent through the mail to the wrong address.
It's been awful, to be honest.
A Bay Area school teacher who lost her second job as a restaurant server at the start of the pandemic applied for unemployment benefits. She was approved and paid in 2020. But now an expensive problem. California's Employment Development Department said she wasn't eligible, accusing her of fraud and claiming she was overpaid more than $13,000. So the state began garnishing her teaching wages even before she could appeal.
I was actually horrified. I started crying. I was just so embarrassed. I couldn't believe this happened. I've never paid a bill late in my life. I have excellent credit. And then just, the fact that they reached out to my school about this, it was a nightmare.
Every paycheck, she says, close to $800 is taken out. $10,000 and counting paid back to the EDD. Her lawyer says she's not alone.
We literally can't even call people back. I would think hundreds, if not thousands, of cases.
The attempt to claw back benefits has attorneys like John Paul Diol working on appeals for people the EDD had greenlit for payment.
That's what's so bizarre. I don't understand, and the EDD hasn't explained how it approved people, only then 2-3 years later to say, oh, we shouldn't have approved you, but why don't you pay us back? Well, it seems to me if the EDD made the mistake, the EDD should eat that cost.
But the EDD made another mistake just days ago, sending his client someone else's paperwork with personal information, social security number, address and phone number, even employment history, all included.
I felt discouraged because then I started to panic. Was my information now sent to a stranger, including my social security number?
It's the latest security problem in many cases affecting those with modest means. I contacted that other person who said she's disappointed her appeals forms are in the hands of someone else.
It's extremely concerning.
Diol accuses the EDD of disorganization and incompetence as he sees more cases and trouble mounting.
The scope is going to be huge, and I'm sure it's just getting worse.
The EDD did not answer our specific questions, but it did stress the need for people to meet eligibility requirements. The state says it has deployed fraud-fighting tools in recent years and referred us to a website to report receiving someone else's mail.
Tonight, a woman who was told that she has to pay back thousands to the state for unemployment claims gets her case resolved, and she owes nothing. I-Team 8's Jasmine Miner tells us what she did, so that way it could help you.
This woman wanted to remain anonymous, but she tells me there was no way she was paying back that $10,327 she owes to the Department of Workforce Development, especially after getting all of her documents in on time. So instead of calling the hotlines, she instead went straight to the top.
When you can't get anywhere with somebody, whether it's customer service or whatever, then you go to the top.
And that decision saved this woman a big chunk of money.
When you go to the Indiana Transparency Portal, you can go to the Find a Person section and search for an agency. So let's try the Department of Workforce Development. It comes up, you hit search, and it pulls up every single person that works within the department. So claims investigators, auditors, even summer interns, their names, their emails, their phone numbers. And this woman tells me she went way past the unemployment hotline, directly emailed an investigator, the director of appeals, and take a look at this. She even emailed someone from the commissioner's office.
She found the website, and one day after sending those emails,
My appeal was canceled, but I did not owe that money, and also apologizes for any confusion.
yes, an actual apology from the department. A week later, that $10,000 was gone off of her account. She says she first did file an appeal, but after hearing nothing, decided to take matters into her own hands.
As if being unemployed is not stressful enough. It's causing me a headache just telling you this.
She says last year when she filed an appeal, it took 8 months just to hear back. Now, like the thousands of others who have written into us, she says it starts at the top.
Fred Payne. He makes $184,107.29 a year. That's his salary. I just looked it up online. If he has to work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to fix this, he's the one who needs to do it.
Commissioner Fred Payne addressed the issue in a news conference 2 weeks ago.
Each one of those cases would be handled on a fact-by-fact basis.
And the governor told me the same thing on Tuesday.
We go through them one by one by one.
We will handle all of these on an individual basis. It's like, no, a lazy way to hold innocent people responsible to fix their screw up. Yeah. They're being lazy and they don't deserve their jobs.
Local woman getting a bill saying that she owes thousands of dollars to the unemployment office. That's something you certainly don't want to see come in your mailbox. Brenda Lipinski spoke to her and to someone at the Texas Workforce Commission to find out just why this happens, and especially in the last year. So how much money does she say she owes?
Michelle Ruiz said that other people she knows have received the same letters. She says it's frustrating because she's doing all she can to help to reach out, hoping she'll get to the bottom of things very soon.
I went from 40 hours to 10 hours.
Michelle Ruiz talks about the cut in hours she received as a result of the pandemic, later having to face layoff and filing for unemployment.
I was looking for work, and still, but people at the time weren't hiring. At the time, we were at 50%.
This month, receiving a letter she wasn't expecting, a $3,000 bill from the Texas Workforce Commission.
The reason for it is because they says I'm showing that I'm working, which is incorrect. And I don't know what to do, Are they going to take that from what I currently get?
We reached out to TWC about Michelle's case, and they say they're planning on contacting her about her situation.
Well, we recognize that it's a difficult time, so we'd rather pay them a little bit, pay them quickly, and occasionally you'll have these overpayments.
And if you get a letter, Burnson says be wary of scams.
If you have a letter that says, pay us here and this is how you do it and has a pay stub, that's not how we operate. But the important thing is to know that we're not going to be pulling this money from people right away. We like to work with people and give them an opportunity to develop a payment plan.
Burnson says the only time the pay when you can plan isn't an option is when there's a connection to fraud.
It can be not reporting earnings or reporting incorrect earnings. It can be providing incorrect or false information about your job separation. It can be a correction of a wage error that results in a lower benefit amount than what was initially determined.
As for Reese, she says she hopes good news is in store for her.
In the last few hours, our team is learning thousands of Arizonans are finally getting some relief. This comes months after learning the Department of Economic Security wanted millions of dollars in unemployment benefits to be paid back.
Team 12's Colleen Sikora talked with a Valley woman who was told she owed $13,000, but now she won't have to pay it back.
2 more pages.
This is a claimant notice.
Nearly 3 years after Debbie Mulgrew first applied for unemployment benefits.
Please disregard our notice and our determination of overpayment dated April 18, 2022 in the amount of $10,350.
DES said she owed back more than $13,000.
It goes on to say that I'm no longer liable for repayment.
Now, no longer liable.
That's a big relief.
But not without headache.
I sent over 171 pages of the documents from DES. I scanned them one by one. It took hours.
Applying for an appeal, getting help from community legal services, and preparing for a hearing that was rescheduled.
I sat and waited.
Debbie was among thousands of Arizonans who DES has said they overpaid unemployment benefits, equating to millions the department has to either recoup or waive in certain situations. Benefits Debbie and others needed in 2020. But from the beginning, Debbie facing a lack of communication from DES and confusion.
3 years of disruption, anxiety, sleepless nights, worry, difficulty in planning my future, all of that was in there.
While the letter contains relief, what's missing?
There was no apology.
Knowing many are still in the same situation.
What about the people that don't have the resources, didn't keep the records, don't have the time to fight for themselves?
A DES spokesperson telling 12 News Wednesday afternoon, more than 4,000 Arizonans have had about $29 million worth of pandemic-era benefit overpayments waived since November. If not waivers, Debbie would like to see what was missing from those 2 pages.
I think an apology, some accountability for what happened,